So one of the things that I think we all run into is trying to identify time. Like, what is it that we have to be able to do? How can we really prioritize all those things? And I think as a program director, we need to make sure that we are truly, as COAMS is talking about, that we need to make this a daily activity. It's an everyday activity. And I think that it makes our lives a lot easier later on. And that's one of the things that I hopefully can show you here. And that is because, I have chased for a long time as a program director, getting data from our clinical sites or getting data from our field sites. And that has put a lot of time on myself. And I have a part-time clinical coordinator who helps out with some of that stuff, but it still is something that just seems like it takes forever. So about a year ago, from the making of this video anyway, I was trying to update some of our information, and I utilized some automated software that you can download as extensions into many of your Google devices, many of your Google Slides or your Google spreadsheets, and looking at docs and forms. So what I'm going to do is show you how I put that stuff together and makes life a lot easier for me. By the way, there's a lot of other ways that you can do this. And one of the ways that I had looked at in the past was utilizing something like SurveyMonkey. So what I would do is send out to the sites asking them to complete this information. And from a survey standpoint, from like a SurveyMonkey standpoint, it was great. I would still get the results back, but then I had to download the information, put it into a format that is available to COA, and then have that information readily available for me. So what I did is just a little bit more of a stepwise fashion to do some stuff up front so that when it's automated, life becomes a whole lot easier. So let's dive in here and take a look at what information we truly need to have. So as you have been watching, this is the COAM site. So it's coaemsp.org. And if you go under the accreditation tab and scroll down to the resource library, you will then notice the quick links on the right-hand side. And the area that we're going to pull right now is going to be instruments and forms. And when I pull up my instruments and forms, about the fourth and fifth areas that I have available to me are Excel files. And you will see that these are identified as affiliate institutional data form, as well as affiliate institutional data form for field internship. So we're going to go ahead and let's just go ahead and download what these both are, and we'll launch this so that you can take a look and see, again, the information that is pre-populated here. And as I pull this up, I can now start to fill in the information or ask our clinical affiliates for the information. So just for time, I'm going to say, you know what? I have this information. I know that it's readily available. I see some information that I really need to have. And while this information is sitting here like this, and it is in a format for Excel, I have other things that I can also do with this. If I need to, move this stuff over a little bit later on, it is actually sitting inside of a spreadsheet already after doing this process. So let's take a look at how I did that. One of the first things that you're definitely going to need to do is make sure that you have a Google account or a Gmail account. With Gmail comes 5 gigabytes of free storage inside of Google Drive. And that also gives you access to the tools that you truly need to have to be able to manage this. Now, my own institution, we are banned from utilizing Google. We cannot utilize any of the features that are within Drive. So I have to go around and utilize my own material or uh, my own accounts to be able to get this to work. So what I did is I just went ahead and put a account together for our program, And with that, that allowed myself as well as any of our faculty or adjuncts to be able to go ahead and access some of this information. And it also allows me to share information with other folks that may be coming into our program as guest lecturers. So, it's a workaround. It may not be the best thing in the world for people, but it has a couple words that I like: free and works. Those are my two main ones. It's free and it works and saves me time. So as you can take a look here, you will notice that I just created a new account for this so that I could demonstrate this for you. Once you are in, you can go to your Google Drive, and this is what your Google Drive is going to look like here. And then I went ahead and created two new folders, one for clinical affiliate data and field affiliate data. Organization is key in a lot of this, and when you start pulling up and looking for some information, particularly if you have to adjust anything in the form, this is where you're going to do that. Oh, by the way, as we go through this, if your institution blocks you from utilizing Google, there is a way around that so that you get the information sent to your work email, and then you can save that data so that it is inside of what I call an accreditation file. My accreditation file has all of the standards that I set up almost like a banker's box, and I put all that information in there now so that when it comes time for my reaccreditation, everything is set. It's going to save me a whole bunch of time in the long run. All right, so I went ahead, and if you're not familiar with that, you can click the new, and here you can see that I just created a folder. And so we'll just do one here real quick, and we'll just call this internship. And when I hit create, here you will see that I created my folder. But for right now, we're going to go into the clinical affiliate data, and I'm now going to go to new. And with my new, I'm now going to come down here to Google Form. My Google Form is going to be one of the first things that I need to take a look at. So I'm going to go from a blank form. In my blank form, it's going to pop up, and I just deleted that, but it tells me about a tour I could take, and that's up to you. But what we want to do is go ahead and start naming this. So I'm going to name this Clinical Affiliate Data. So usually in this case, I would ask them to go ahead. Oops. I would ask them to go ahead and fill out this form. Okay, so one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you pull over the data into your Google form and make sure that it is the appropriate information. So to do that, if you have two screens, great, no problem. You should be able to work on them when they're like this. However, right now I'm working off of a laptop and I don't have it connected to a dock, so I want to make sure that I can still not, put windows up and down. So all I need to do is go ahead and press my Windows key and then press an arrow. I press the arrow to the right and it moves that open window to the right. And if I press it again, it gives me the option here to pull up the Excel file that I had opened up earlier for clinical affiliate data. And now you will notice that I have both of them side by side on the screen. It's going to make life a whole heck of a lot easier for me. Now you will also notice that Google Form does change and place information down below on the toolbar. So shouldn't be too much of an issue, but we're going to go ahead and start with number one, which is affiliate name. And after I put in the affiliate name, it does give me an option as to whether or not this should be a short answer, a paragraph, multiple choice, checkboxes, drop down. Do you want to upload a file? Or you put in a date, time? Now that is entirely up to you. One of the things that I would recommend is that you put in the affiliate data or your affiliate name, and the information is going in here as a short answer. As a result of that, you want to make sure that you hit required. When you hit required, it's a forced field, and therefore whoever is filling out that form is going to have to finish filling out every one of those fields until it is absolutely complete, and then you have a good form. Now, if you're worried about date and time, keep in mind that when they submit this, it is going behind the scenes for us that it is date and time stamping when this information was put in. You can add that in so that that person has to fill it in. That's perfectly fine. But again, it is entirely up to you how you want to get that. Again, we're looking at the most current data that we would have. Okay, so let's go ahead and start plugging in some more Okay, so we're going to make sure that we enter in all of this information that is going to be relevant. And so I showed you how to put in that first question to make sure that it is required. Our next thing will be that we're going to add another question and we're going to go ahead and click the plus button down here and it will bring that right in. So let's go ahead and add in. Now you will notice that I did not make this one a requirement because I already have an address up here as being required. So some places are not going to have a direct location. So therefore you don't want to make sure that you put that in as a forced field because they may not have anything to put in there. So one of the things at this point that I would say we would stop for like the first section. And the reason for that is because the next question that you can see over here is the distance from the program. And you may be able to put this in yourself. That's probably what I would do. This is what I did do, so that I know better where it's at. So I can just go into a Google map and identify what the mileage is truly going to be from the distance. So I don't really put that one in there. The next section, though, you will notice here is in relationship to who the on-site liaison is. Is there a current agreement? Have they completed this information? This is almost like a secondary area. So what I want to do is create a new page for that. And I'm probably going to make sure that I put in additional information so that I have everything that I absolutely need for that site. So to do that, I'm going to add in a new section. Exactly how do I do that? Well, you know that I can put in a question. And by the way, if you put all these questions in and you want to add a section, that's not a problem. You can go back and fix this. But right over here, and I'll move my camera, is the area to add a section. So I'm going to go ahead and add a section. And when I add that section, I'm now going to identify this. So now I can go ahead and start adding in my questions for this. And again, one of the first things that I would want to ask here is going to be, obviously, what is their name? So who is the name? Liaison contact, this could become complicated for people to take a look at and say, who is it? So I'm going to put a description in here. And that description actually is going to be that, the person with whom we will be directly working with when scheduling EMS students. Now, I'm not sure how your program is, but a lot of times I have that one point of contact, and then they are the ones who send everything out to the specific departments and let them know what's going on. And other places, I'm responsible for each department. And so that means that I have to make different notifications. So at least if you put this in here, this is also the person who's probably going to be the individual that you need to make sure that you're going to send the contract information to. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish adding in more. I want to make sure that they put that in correctly. A lot of times people don't like to do that, but we're going to make sure that that information is available. So how about email address? Even though this is not in our form, I want to make sure that I have that information. Now you will see here that it does add in a suggestion. So I would say yes, no, maybe. Yeah, so let's go ahead and we can go in there for the yes, no, and I'm going to get rid of the maybe. Just saves me a little bit of time. Okay, so we have now completed that section in relationship to um, the liaison. So now we're going to come back in here. We're going to add another section. And this section now is going to be our affiliate data, right? So we want to know about that affiliate data. And now this is where we want to do annual visits. So now they're made aware that this is for annual visits. And I'm going to add in my description here. So I want them to put the number of patients seen in each of the departments where they permit students. So if they don't have a permit or don't have, or they don't permit students into those departments, then we want them to put an NA. So by doing this, it gives us that great idea or that great option that things are in place, right? So we want to make sure that things are in place for us and that they're aware that, hey, if something changed, it's okay. They can update that information. Okay, so let's go ahead in here and start filling in some information. In addition to this, I also, for us, and I'm just throwing this one in here just to show you that you can add these in as well. So the cath lab, we have our students go to the cath lab as well. So I'm adding that in just as another option that if there's another hospital that I have an agreement with, then it's going to give us that information. Now, when it comes to the rest of the data that you may see over here with the number of students who typically assigned, and the number of shifts that each student has. Most of the folks that I'm aware of, at least I know from my program, we're utilizing a third-party program that tracks all that clinical data, and we have the ability to go ahead and pull that information. So that gives us a little bit better result. And a lot of times you can also ask the question in here, how many students will you allow per department? And you can add that in as well. And one thing that I did not put in here, which was, is there a current affiliation agreement? So when I realize that I may have missed something, I can come right back up here and I can now go to where, this part is and where the affiliate name is. So I'm going to go ahead and we can just add that in as a question. There you go. So now you can put that in as a requirement. So I'm going to now come down here. I'm going to add one more section, additional information. So here I can, the identity of year to year, you can access our presenter manual and presenter course. And now you can put in the information that you need, and they now have the ability to contact you again if there's any questions in relationship to this form or anything else. Okay, so that takes care of, oops, we want to name it. So we want to name this to clinical affiliate data, and we should now be set with this form. Start organizing it. Get this organized. So we're going to go here to responses. And when you hit responses, you will notice that there is 0 responses, but we have a area here to create a spreadsheet. So we want to go ahead and click that. And we want to create a new spreadsheet and click create. Okay, so now we have part 2 being taken care of. Let's take a look at how we now need to not only bring this in, but we're going to pull up a Google Doc. So again, we just used a form. We've now made life easier for ourselves by having the clinical affiliate information put in, and it's going to now be in a spreadsheet. Now we're going to add in a document so that we can get that information we want in a nice little form. Google Drive. And now I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to pick Google Doc. When I pick up my Google Doc, I now need to pull information. So what I'm looking to do here is I want to make sure that my Google Doc is going to be formatted in the way that I want it to appear if I were to print it out or when I go to print things out. So that means that I want information from the affiliate name, the address, the city, all of this information that you will notice that is on the top form of the spreadsheet is what I want to be able to have filled in. Okay, so let's go ahead and start adding in some information here, right? So just add here. And I'm just naming it as clinical affiliate data form. Anything that I am using that when I print it out as I'm putting it as bold, okay? So nothing different here than what I would normally do for making things bold. It's going to be under the text area. But you will notice that I'm adding something in here. So affiliate name and affiliate name. So all I did was take this part here. I just highlighted it. And when I highlight it, I can then right mouse click it and copy it. And now I can come over here and I can control V or I can use the right mouse click. Now you will notice that immediately when I do that, that it has just affiliate name. I need to put the less than sign 2 times to be in front of it. And then I put the greater than sign on the other side, just like this. What that is going to do is actually auto-populate that information when we merge the forms together. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is I already have this form identified elsewhere, and I'm going to go ahead and auto-populate it. And what I can potentially do is put a link in the notes for particularly this one that actually has that information in, so it makes it easier for you to just copy it over and you can adjust anything that you may need to. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and paste that information. So I now have all of the information that I am looking for inside of my clinical affiliate. You will notice that I put this name up here in red, and that's just for me so that I know exactly who it is. It highlights it for me as I'm going through things. And now it will start auto-populating things as soon as a form would be completed. So let's go ahead and name it. And again, all I need to do is click in here, and it puts it in here as the clinical affiliate data form. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go back here to our clinical form, or I'm sorry, to our Google Drive, and I'll just open this up. And you will notice that just under clinical affiliate data, I have the form, I have the spreadsheet, and I also have the Google Doc. Now, all I need to do is add in one little thing, and that's going to be called an add-on. So my add-on is actually going to come from my spreadsheet. So I go right over here to where it says add-ons. I click on add-ons and I want to go to get add-ons. I now want to be able to add in or a program that is called Autocrat. So you can see right here that Autocrat has popped up and I'm going to go ahead and click it. And it tells me that it's a sheet add-on and I want to install it. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue. And it's going to tell me about all the access that it's going to have. This is why a lot of places do not like this, because it has a lot of access for things. So we're going to go ahead and click done and tells us where we can access that. So I can now close that part. Okay, so under my add-ons, I'm now going to come in here. I'm going to hit open Autocrat and I'm now going to hit new job and we're going to start just naming it. We'll click next. And now I want to be able to pull up a template. So I already know that I'm going to pull this up from my drive. And right here is the clinical affiliate form that I want. So I'm going to click it and I'm now going to hit select. And then I click next. And now what I need to do is map everything out, right? So this is what I know is available. This is stuff that was already to the clipboard. And I want to be able to make sure that I map it to a particular area. So for my affiliate name, I want to make sure that it has affiliate name. My address one, I want to make sure that that is correct. And those were some areas you will just notice sometimes it may not import in, and that's because I copied and pasted. Now, what you will notice is the reason that these are like that is because they are not worded exactly. So I'm kind of, as I'm hurrying, I don't want to say hurrying through here, but I actually am. What I would do is instead of the copying and pasting like I did, I am now going to make sure that what is up here is word for word in my form, then it will just automatically import. You can see how the other ones worked in there as they were word for word. We are good. So then we can click next. The file settings, because this is something that you are going to make sure that you're keeping, right? So you can keep this as a Google Doc. And what's great about having it as a Google Doc is that it's not taking up any of your gigabytes. You can choose to keep it like that, or you can make it as a PDF. So we're going to, though, name this specifically. So we're going to open this up, expand this out a little bit. And now what I want to do is I'm going to name it just a little bit. So I'm going to go in here and actually I'm going to name it Clinical Affiliate. And now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to give the name, right? So I want the affiliate name. And when I highlighted it, I can then come back over here and hit Control V and it will now put it in there. Okay, so this is now telling me that the clinical affiliate, what the name of that institution is, and now it's going to put it in a file wherever I want it. Again, the type area, I can make this as a Google Doc or a PDF. It is entirely up to you. This is how it's going to save your information right away. So I'm going to put it in here as a Google Doc so that I can edit it a little later if I need to add in additional information. I'm going to click Next. And where do I want to put it? I want to put it under my clinical affiliate data. So I'm pretty good with that. And I'm going to click Next again. And now I don't need to worry about a dynamic folder. My set merge condition, I don't need to worry about as well. And now when I click Next, it wants to know whether or not you should share it. And the answer here should be yes. So here you want to make this as a PDF. So when you add it as a PDF, you can then send an email to whomever. So you can send it to yourself, right? So you can send it also, and I like to send it to the affiliate as well. Okay, so if I want to put it in here as the affiliate, I'm going to use their email address. And so I can add in the to in the CC. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. So to the to, I'm going to click the email address of the liaison, and under the CC, I am now going to put my email address in. Okay, that's where I would put my email address in here. And then I am now going to add in additional information, such as, what is in, and who should I reply to? I always put my work email in here as well. And then in the type for the subject matter, this would be clinical affiliate data for, and now I can go over here again and I can put the affiliate name and I'm going to paste that in. Now when it comes into the emails, this is where it's going to be identified as. And then I can sign it. So one of the things that I can put in here is to put and make this just a little bit more personable. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go over here to the liaison. So I'm going to click that and we're going to just put that in here. And now when it is emailed, it will put their name in there as well. So we're going to go ahead and click next. Now when I have this, it's asking me, do I want to have this run on the form trigger or do I want it on a time trigger? I want it to run every time somebody submits the form. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes. So it's asking me about enabling the triggers. I'm going to say yes. So it's updating everything. And now I can go ahead and click save and we are essentially set. So now we're going to test the system. Okay, so we've set up that job and now we can go ahead and close this out. And actually we can close out the clinical affiliate data form and it brings us right back here to, at least my windows bring it back into our Google Drive again. Okay, so what I want to do though is I want to pull up our clinical affiliate Google form. And you can see over here that I have the option to be able to send that. So if I want to send that out, when I click send, it gives me the option to either email this I can send it as a link, and or I can embed it. So it is entirely up to you how you choose to do this. If you wish to embed it, that would where that would be where you want to embed that into your website. If you are looking for sending this to them individually, then you want to go ahead with a link. I would probably discourage you from utilizing the email because again, it's going to come from, at that point, it's going to come from whatever your Google email is. So now, if you're a Google-based business, then absolutely you shouldn't have much of a problem with that. But just some of those things you want to make sure that you're familiar with. So I usually choose the link. Now, a lot of times people would like to shorten this. I would suggest that you test your system. I work in a facility in which if I shorten it, it brings it down to this. And with that, it means that it usually has a tendency to get blocked. So I do not shorten it at all. I just use this whole form and I go ahead and copy it. Now, there's a couple ways that you can set things up. You can make this then as a hyperlink inside of your email just by saying click here, and then you can put the hyperlink in, or you can also make it as a shortener. And there's two ways to do that. So let's take a look at two ways you can do so. You can go in and you can use bit.ly, which is bit.ly, and when you go to bit.ly, and there's one that's actually bit.ly.com, you can actually then use by getting started for free, and you can now actually get people ready to go. So that means that you can just get started for free. You can create an account, and it shouldn't be much of an issue. What's great about bit.ly is that you can then track how people are clicking that information, and you can see the number of hits that you actually get. So from an analytics standpoint, there's different things you can do. Another one that you might want to consider is called the tiny URL. And if you use tiny URL, what happens with the tiny URL, I forgot to hit .com. If you use the tiny URL, it goes right from this website. So when you go in, you click the one that says, I want to make it longer, and I can go ahead and click paste, and then I can click make a tiny URL. You will notice that here's what it initially was, and here's what it is now. If I want to add things on to the end of it, I could have before I click that, and now I have the ability to use that. Again, bunch of ways in which you can do it. There's two little choices that you can also use. Just as another little hint, and I think I have this somewhere else on maybe one of my videos on my YouTube page, is that you may utilize these shorteners for different things in class, and it makes life a whole heck of a lot easier for when people start to type into different things on their phone. By the way, I use these forms for a lot of other things than just the clinical affiliate data. So let's see what this form will do, right? Let's see if everything works the way that we want to. So I have a couple of accounts, and I'm going to just go ahead and we're going to pull up one of those, and I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. And there is my clinical affiliate data. So we're going to go ahead and call this the ABC Hospital. Oh, so see, I already found an error. That error was right here. Okay, so that means that I'm going to have to fix that. I realized that there was a problem, right? So we're going to come back in here. We're just going to edit this. This is back to where it was supposed to be. And you can see here that this is now just a short answer. And we should be set to go with that now. Okay. I had to recycle my form. And now we're just going to go ahead and finish filling in our information. And tells me about where you can get a hold of me at. And now I click save. So let's see what we have. So after submitting that form, you can see here that it has appeared. So let's take a look at two things. First off, we'll open up our Google form, and you can see that it was date and time stamped. And here's all of the information that was entered in. So now we have this as a spreadsheet, and essentially we could break this down and copy and paste anywhere else that we needed to if we so wanted to. It also has at the end where it is located at and how it was put in here as a Google Doc, the clinical affiliate as what that whole merged document is about. So it shows that it was already completed. But that's one way to look at it. I can use that as a hyperlink to open this up. But here is what the form actually then is going to look like. And you can see that the information was placed in here appropriately and all of the numbers have actually been put in place. So this also has an email that was automatically generated to myself, and it means that, hey, this was placed in here without an issue. And now I can put this into my accreditation file so that everything is readily available for me. You can also tell here that the name was put in correctly, so those line up. And this, to me, makes life a whole heck of a lot easier, at least in my opinion. I can at least highlight this. I can use other reports to try to blend all this information together. And I can do the same thing now with a field information. And if you're like me, I would much rather have all of the information for all of my field sites, even if I may not use them as a field internship site, but I want all of that data and keep all of that information readily available. So just one little tip, it seems like it took a while to get here, but keep in mind that it really does save you some time later on. So hopefully this was helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know. My information is, obviously you see my information right there for my email. Feel free to send me an email and yeah, we'll see you soon.